The Greek daimones, or spirits, served as personifications for nearly every aspect of the world and the experiences of mankind. Some were famous gods like Eros, but most were more obscure. Two of these personifications were inescapable to any man who went to war, though. Nearly every soldier would at some point feel the power of Deimos and Phobos. Only the bravest, or the most devoted, warriors completely resisted panic and terror in the face of battle. Courage, good training, and self-restraint were needed to keep the gods of fear from holding too much power. The twin sons of Aphrodite and Ares embodied two different types of fear. Dread and panic were closely related but distinct forms of the emotion, either of which could be disastrous in a battle or fight. They were minor spirits, but Deimos and Phobos had a power that could fell entire armies. The twins Deimos and Phobos. Deimos and Phobos were twin brothers, the sons of Ares and Aphrodite. Aphrodite was the goddess of beauty and love, while Ares embodied the brutality of war. Despite their differences, the two deities had one of the most famous love affairs in Greek mythology. Their children were often more closely associated with one or another of their parents, but most had one thing in common. Both love and war gave rise to strong, overpowering emotions. Their twin sons, Deimos and Phobos, were most often associated with their father. They were the personifications of fear. As twins, the two were very alike and almost inseparable. They embodied variations of the same emotion and were almost always seen together, affecting the same side of a battle to lead to a total breakdown of morale and discipline. Deimos was the god of terror and dread. Phobos was the god of panic and rout. The twin gods, along with their aunt Enyo, were most often shown accompanying their father to battle. There, they could lead armies to utter destruction. Descriptions of fear. Despite their associations with overwhelming forms of fear, Deimos and Phobos were typically not represented as particularly terrifying in their appearance. In fact, most artwork shows them as looking remarkably ordinary. They were young men, either nude or dressed as soldiers. Often only an inscription differentiates them from common soldiers. Sometimes their identities can only be inferred from their proximity to their father, Ares, or the other terrible gods and goddesses of war. A few depictions, both written and artistic, show them in a more terrifying light than this. Hesiod said that Phobos had eyes that glowed like fire and a gleaming row of viscous-looking bright white teeth. In other depictions, Phobos is shown with leonine features. He sometimes has the mane of a lion or the entire face of one. More immediate than their physical appearance, however, were the feelings that the twins inspired in all who encountered them. Terror and panic were two of the strongest emotions a man could face on the field of battle. Companions in war. The twin gods of fear accompanied their father to battle. Ares, the god of war, embodied the bloodlust of fighting and the vicious side of warfare. While he inspired men to fight ruthlessly, his sons brought fear to those not affected by their father's bravado. Deimos brought the sense of dread and terror a soldier might face as a battle began. Those affected by him might be too afraid to fight. Phobos was the personification of panic. He could cause soldiers to flee a battle in fear. No battle could happen without Deimos and Phobos being present. Their part in warfare was even more central and inescapable as their aunt Enyo's bloodlust. Their role was not to inspire greatness or bring renown to brave warriors. They caused disorder and chaos in battle, often leading to more deaths as soldiers let their fear overcome their judgment and training. The Greeks were pioneers in warfare, using careful planning and training to keep their soldiers from breaking ranks. When Deimos and Phobos took control of the battlefield, However, the tight lines of the Greek phalanx fell apart, leaving the entire army open to slaughter. Deimos and Phobos were often shown as their father's charioteers. In at least one story, the twins carried their father to safety when he was injured in battle. The later Dionysiaca even depicted Deimos and Phobos serving Zeus during his fight against the monstrous giant Typhon. Against one of the more fearsome enemies the gods would ever face, only the twin forms of fear could help Zeus win a victory. Although she, too, was associated with war, Athena was rarely if ever pictured with the twins of fear. Her role was as a strategist and leader, valuing discipline and planning over chaotic emotions of the battlefield. In some ways, the type of war overseen by Athena was the antithesis of the battles Deimos and Phobos delighted in. The leaders and great generals she inspired may have hoped to cause fear in the opposing army, but they relied on reason and discipline to win their battles instead of raw emotion. Shields of Deimos and Phobos. In Greek warfare, a soldier's shield was as much of a weapon as his sword or spear. It could be used to strike out at an enemy, but it had an even more important function as a psychological weapon. One of the main functions of the shield every Greek soldier held was to inspire fear. The Greeks believed that the images on their shields helped to protect them and give them strength in battle. They would often decorate their shields with images of their favored god or goddess to ask for that deity's protection. More often, however, the Greeks used their shields to inspire fear in their enemies. Depicting a monster, for example, would not only give the bearer a portion of that monster's strength but would also display his ferocity to those he faced on the field of battle. Shields served as a type of psychological warfare among Greek armies, and many famous examples showed that the Greeks often invoked Phobos and Deimos to inspire fear in their enemies during battle. A warrior's shield was so important that many poems and epics describe them in great detail. While common soldiers may have had simple shields, the great kings and gods carried shields into battle that were rich works of art in themselves. Several of these exceptional shields described by ancient writers featured Deimos and Phobos as proof that those who carried the shield had the favor of those gods and could inspire their fear in anyone who challenged them. The fear of loss. While Deimos and Phobos were most closely associated with their warrior father, they were also sons of Aphrodite. As such, their powers could be felt off the battlefield as well. Those in love had reason to be wary of the arrival of the twins almost as much as those who faced an attacking army. Love and battle were closely linked in the Greek imagination, and both could inspire fear. Deimos could represent the fear of loss as well as the terror of battle. An unlucky lover could find themselves overwhelmed with the dread that they would one day lose the one they loved, whether to another person or to death. Phobos could stop a person from pursuing love altogether. Fear of rejection, for example, could inspire a panic that kept a person from ever expressing their love for another. As much as the different forms of fear could affect men in war, those in love could also see their aspirations cut short by Aphrodite's terrible sons.